Hey everybody, today I decided to do a video on flat or inverted nipples and how that affects breastfeeding. I've come across a lot of moms that struggle with flat or inverted nipples and getting baby to latch, and even myself, like I don't have those perfect nipples that a baby is easily stimulated by. One of mine is kind of flatter, and so Facebook, this is educational. It is not sexual. To all the perverts out there, keep your comments to yourself. I know you won't because you're perverted. If this gets you off, shame on you. It's disgusting. This is educational purposes only. I was going to just use my boob that I use for demonstrations, but it's not as realistic as me just showing you myself. And I'm not ashamed of my body, and I believe in learning, and so while I'm not breastfeeding, this is for breastfeeding purposes and it's educational. So Facebook, don't delete this video. Perverts, please look elsewhere. There's free porn on the internet. Okay? All right, so first of all, there's different kinds of flat or inverted nipples. First, there's just flat. And they aren't like they don't protrude very far. And then there's pseudo inverted. So they look like they're inverted, but as soon as you provide some stimulation, they come out. And then there's retracted nipples. So when you go to latch baby or provide any sort of stimulation, they actually retract even further. And then there's true inverted. So if you want to know whether or not you have truly inverted nipples, you could grab behind the areola here and press back and pull forward, and it should come out. And so if it does, with you providing a little bit of pressure like this, then you don't actually have truly inverted nipples. If your nipple stays completely inverted even with this this pressure, then you most likely do. And then some women have an inverted nipple on one side and not the other. And I think it's important to talk about how, it's not nipple feeding, it is breastfeeding. And so babies don't latch on to the nipple, they latch on to the breast tissue, right? And this is because you want the nipple all the way back in their mouth near their soft palate. You don't want them nipple feeding. However, babies like the feeling of a nipple, and that's what causes them to open wide and latch on. And they like that stimulation in their mouth along their palate of the nipple, and that's what entices them to start breastfeeding and drawing in that breast tissue. So some mothers do struggle when they don't have that protruding nipple to stimulate their baby. Okay, so it can be an issue for some moms, and I'm going to give you some solutions. So the first one is a Breastshell. So you can buy them on Amazon. Different companies make them, and it comes in like two parts. So it goes inside your bra. I don't have one to show you because I didn't ever need to use one. But it goes inside your bra, and then there's a piece inside of it with a hole where your nipple goes through. And what it does is, as you wear it throughout the day, and this is prior to your baby being born, it provides a little bit of pressure around the areola and breaking down any tissue that are holding in the nipple that's inverted or flat. Okay, so the evidence to support whether or not it's super beneficial isn't 100% yay or nay. And experts some people suggest doing this before your baby comes, and some say it's not necessary. So this is just an option, something to look into if it interests you. And there's no harm in doing it, but to say for sure whether or not by the time your baby comes, if you do wear the Breastshell, would it make a huge difference? I'm not sure. But that is an option. Okay, so then the next option is, once your baby does come, is before you latch your baby, you could pump. So you could just use any pump that you have. This is my electronic pump. So that's one way. Another way is the Haka, and this provides a little bit of suction. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So now this is when my boob comes out to all you perverts. Here you go. So you can see that my nipple is kind of on the flatter side, okay? So when you put this on, you do this first, squeeze, apply, let this go back on, and it'll draw it out. And you can get rid of more suction if you want. Okay, so you can see it's being drawn out there. So that's one way. Okay. The next is a plunger. So this is a 60 ml syringe that I got at the drugstore. And don't mind how awful it looks. This is just for educational purposes. I've had this for a really long time. Is I cut the end off, and clearly you can see I didn't do a great job. But you could just get like a box cutter or get someone to help you. You cut the end off because this plunger was in it this way, right? So I cut the end off and then I put the plunger back in this way. Does that make sense to everyone? So this is just my homemade version. I'll attach some links of some nipple aspirators that you can buy online. There's some that look a little more intricate, and then there's some that just look like essentially like a bulb suction. Kind of like this with some suction, but it's made specifically just for the nipple. Okay, so I'm going to show you up close. Put this on here, and I'm going to draw it out, and you can see it's being drawn in there. That's about as much as I can handle, to be honest. So don't cause yourself pain, but you're going to hold this for a couple of minutes. Oh, Forrest, I'm doing a video, love. Can you go?
Can I have a snack?
Yes, you can have a snack. Okay, so you're going to hold this for a couple of minutes before your baby latches. And because I'm not going to sit here doing this for a few minutes, I'm going to stop now. But you can see how it did actually pull my nipple out a bit. Okay, so that is one option. Okay, so the next thing you could try is nipple stimulation. I talked about this when I was talking about the different kinds of inverted nipples. So what you can do is press back like this. And if anyone's seen my colostrum expression video, you could do something similar to that. So you press back near the areola, press back, pull forward, oops. Okay, and you could even get a cold cloth because cold typically helps your nipples become more erect. Also, I don't mind my sunburn. Okay, so that is nipple stimulation. Another option is when your baby latches. So sometimes making a sandwich like this for them to latch onto this tissue helps them, and it creates a little bit of like a nipple shape for them to latch onto and feel that stimulation. You can also hold back on the tissue. So if you had very, very flat inverted nipples and you held it back like this and it came out, you could hold it like this while your baby latches. But just remember, don't hold really close because you want your baby to latch onto all of this, not just this. Okay, so hold back like this. See, you can even see it when I pull it back. See how it creates more of a nipple? Okay, so that's another option. Sometimes when we are in the hospital or not in the hospital, if you end up having a lot of fluid retention or you're given a lot of fluids during labor or after labor, it kind of goes all over. So you get swelling in your feet, you get swelling everywhere, including your breasts. And sometimes a really swollen breast makes your nipple super flat, even if you didn't have normally a flat nipple. And so sometimes that makes it really difficult for the baby to latch. And even engorgement. If your milk comes in and your boobs just become very full of milk and that nipple just disappears because it's just so full, then you could do something called reverse pressure softening, okay? So reverse pressure softening, all you have to do is create a circle with your fingers. You're gonna go around your areola like this. You're just gonna press in like this and hold this for 1 to 3 minutes. That's all you do. So all you're doing is you're pushing away that edema, that fluid, away from the area that you want to be softer. Okay, so you would just hold it like this and then release. Okay, and then the last option is a nipple shield. It's kind of bright, you can't really see that. So this is a nipple shield. Actually, we'll do a whole nother video on nipple shields because I feel like it deserves its entire own video, because sometimes nipple shields are awesome, and then other times they can, they're great in the beginning, but then they're hard to wean off of, and you end up with lack of supply, or there's different issues, because I kind of see these as like a Band-Aid. I used these with 2 of my children, and I wouldn't have been able to breastfeed at all if I didn't have them, but I did wean off of them. And going through that process can be difficult for some families, so it's important that you reach out for help, okay? And understand that this is just a temporary solution. It's not something that's meant to be used for like an entire year if you're gonna breastfeed that long, okay? So I'll do another video separately on how to apply nipple shields, and we'll talk a little bit more about nipple shields, but this is also another great option for those moms. And when you do go to use a nipple shield, if you want it just to draw out your nipple, what you could do is put it on, latch your baby, let your baby feed for a bit, and then quickly do the swap where you just take it off, your nipple is already inverted, latch baby again, and there you go. Okay? So all this being said, I talked about in the beginning of this video that there's more to any of this than just these things that I'm giving you, these tips and tricks. Your baby needs to have an effective latch. They need to have a good suck to be able to draw that nipple out and keep it extended. So it's important that you reach out for help and support early on. And if you know that you have flat nipples, try not to get discouraged before your baby comes, because you may not have any issues at all. But it might be a good idea for you to reach out for help prior to your baby coming, so that you have someone there right away to help you. Okay? So if anyone has any questions, or if you have any comments, if anyone has any ideas that have worked for them, and they have flat or inverted nipples, please share. That's the best way for us all to learn, is from other mothers' experiences and what works. But I hope that these few things that I've given you will be beneficial for the moms that are worried or are struggling with flat or inverted nipples.